Welcome to LFC Transfer Hub. Florian Wirtz answering Gary Neville's little boy jibe as Liverpool star eyes Man City impact. If pushed to name the nadir of what are still the formative stages of his Liverpool career to date, Florian Wirtz might well pick the 3-0 defeat to Manchester City at the Etihad in November. Unable to make a telling impact in the sort of fixture he would have dreamed about when he made the move to England in June, Wirtz was largely anonymous on a chastening day for Reds, who were in the thick of a run that saw them lose 9 in 12. To add insult to injury, the attacking midfielder was blasted by Gary Neville later that day, with the Manchester United legend remarking, "Wirtz is a problem, let's just call it as it is, it's an issue. He's £120 M." I said a few weeks ago about Milos Kerkez that he looks like a little boy out there, and today I thought Wirtz looks like a little boy, and that can't be the case. He's a Germany international of great standing, and he looks well short in terms of what you'd expect in a top, physical Premier League match. It was, in fact, the sort of appraisal that perhaps Virgil van Dijk was alluding to when he sat down with Neville this week at the AXA training centre to urge more protection from ex-pros on punditry for the current crop of young players. But from Neville's perspective, the enormous transfer fee was clearly weighing heavily on Wirtz, whose appearance at the Etihad was his 11th in the Premier League without a goal or an assist to his name. "We've been tiptoeing around him for a few months," Neville continued. "He's young, coming to a new country, but he's £120 you're going to have to stand up soon. He obviously got something, he's a really good player, he's technically fantastic, but he's been mauled out there today by Matthias, Nuns and by others. He's been chucked around the pitch and didn't deliver in the quality side of things as well. So his performance was a real worry." Whether you feel Neville went over the line or not depends on your own subjective take on the analysis from the pundits, but there is little doubt, in more general terms, that the physicality point had merit. Wirtz has been on a specialised gym programme to give him a better chance of adjusting to Premier League football, which has seemingly become the land of the giants this term. Over 2.5 kilograms of muscle had been packed on at last count, with the playmaker looking more powerful in recent weeks as a result. How that impacts his turn of pace only Wirtz will know. The 22-year-old is a player who has always relied on speed of thought more than the fast twitch muscles, and the Reds' 2-0 win at West Ham later that month proved to be something of a turning point for the £116 man. The former Bayer Leverkusen man was outstanding, as the Reds went some way towards steadying the ship. It's perhaps pertinent to reference that Wirtz arrived at the club with his good friend Jeremy Frimpong, whose captures from Leverkusen were both confirmed in June, at a time when the entire operation was reeling from the sudden and shock death of Diogo Jota. As Liverpool attempted to piece together their next moves and how best to handle the passing of the popular Portuguese, it would have been no surprise if Wirtz had felt like something of a spare part initially, the new boy entering a dressing room that was still grieving. That, of course, is not to entirely explain away the underwhelming first few months, but it does at least provide some context. What was noticeable for those covering the club on a day-to-day basis was the sheer volume of material that was published in Germany in defence of an ordinary start to Liverpool life at the time. From Ilkay Gundogan and Jurgen Klinsmann through to Philipp Lahm and Serge Gnabry, all queued up to speak effusively on behalf of their compatriot. Even Jurgen Klopp was moved to describe Wirtz as the talent of the century, a player the legendary former manager would no doubt have loved to have coached at Anfield himself. "Of course I was very excited when I came," Wirtz told the BBC last week. "I wanted it to be like an instant success, but it didn't come like this, and I just had to stay strong in my mind, keep believing in myself that at one point it has to click, because I was telling myself, you did so good in Germany, you cannot just forget how to play football." Key to keeping that level head is the strong family network the former Leverkusen man has around him. He is one of 10 children in total and has had his career guided by his parents, father Hans Joachim, who doubles up as his representative, and mother Karin. He is also particularly close with sister Julian, who plays for Werder Bremen. A switch to the left side of the front three, from what had previously been the most advanced midfield position, allowed him the freedom to roam and create with the security of an extra body in the centre of the pitch. At a time when the team were being so easily played through and undercut by a failure to handle more direct sides, the tactical tweak worked a charm for Slot. But since that performance at the London Stadium on November 30, something has seemed to click for the Reds' No. 7, to use his own phrase. Each display since has only given supporters further evidence of a player settling into his surroundings, with the notable exception of the goalless draw with Leeds United on New Year's Day, when an unfit Wirtz was subdued. The equaliser struck against Sunderland in December should have been the end of his goal drought, but the strike, which took a deflection on its way, was eventually given as a Nordi Mukiel own goal, meaning Wirtz had to wait until December 27 to officially open his account in the win over Wolves. 6 goals in barely a month now sees him up to 9 goal involvements in his past 11 matches, with assists for Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak, and a penalty win for the decisive goal against Inter, all featuring in the uptick in output. The work in the gym has also been paying off, with successful duels up from 36.2% to 45.5% in his last dozen games, while he is now averaging 81.9 touches a game, with 7.6 coming in the opposition penalty area, which is a rise of over 50% on his first 20 games in Liverpool Red. Put simply, Wirtz is now getting more involved in areas that can hurt the opposition, and the results have been striking. It was really interesting for me, Germany colleague Jonathan Tah tells ESPN. We talked a lot during that time earlier in the season, and now as well. I know how it was for him. Obviously, the start wasn't what he expected, but what everybody expected, but I think it was good. It was good for him to learn, not only as a player to adapt to everything, but also his personality. He will grow from that. Now he is doing good, but I think you will see even more of him. The Premier League is going to see the Florian Wirtz during the next months or years that he's going to be there. He is still going to improve. Wirtz's partnership with Ekitike in particular has given more than a fleeting glimpse of how the future might look at Anfield, with the pair combining for 6 goals this term, which is most in the Premier League. They are also the youngest duo to do that in a single campaign at Anfield, at the respective ages of 22 and 23, eclipsing Steven Gerrard and Michael Owen from over 2 decades ago. I give him love, so I said to him he needs to give some assists back to me now, joked Ekitike recently when asked about their combinations. We can help the team and score. He's a great player, a smart footballer, and I like to play with that kind of player. Hopefully we can continue each and every game scoring and giving assists to each other. Wirtz might have arrived in English football as the £116 playmaker, ready to become the heir apparent to throne vacated by Kevin De Bruyne, who left Manchester City for Napoli in the summer, but it is another gifted Etihad creator who Jamie Carragher sees more in right now. When he joined, I likened him to Kevin De Bruyne. We've lost Kevin De Bruyne, but we've gained Florian Wirtz. Forget the teams they play for, we're talking about special players coming into our league, Carragher said on Monday evening. When I've watched Wirtz a lot this season, I asked if he could ever get to De Bruyne's level, and he was obviously a great player, but it was always about goals and assists. When I watch Wirtz, I just thought, is he going to be a player who is just easy on the eye? A little bit reminiscent of a David Silva type. Okay, David Silva wouldn't have got the numbers De Bruyne got, but he just knitted everything together, and I think Wirtz has got a bit of both. He may never get the numbers of Kevin De Bruyne, but maybe he is a bit more similar to David Silva. There's no doubt he is a quality player, but when we're talking about his slow start, I think one of the games that really stood out was Manchester City away. And Gary Neville said on commentary, and rightly so, that he looks like a little boy out there. And you give a few months after, coming to England, a high-profile game, but he has now got Manchester City at Anfield. He is now really confident. He's got that combination with Ekitike. He's gone from a little boy, which he was being called, earlier in the season. You take the criticism when you cost that amount of money, but now you have the opportunity to shove those words down Gary Neville's throat, fingers crossed. As one figure at Liverpool remarked last week, Wirtz has now found his voice, becoming noticeably more vocal behind the scenes after finding form in recent weeks. That being said, it is still actions that speak louder than words in the Premier League, and with that in mind, it might be time to offer a reply to Neville when City visit this weekend.